Okay, good day, everybody. I hope you've all had a lovely day so far. My name's Craig Ludlow, and I will be presenting how to make kombucha from scratch for everybody today. I've shared my screen, so you should be seeing that now, and we'll just get started. First up, a little bit about me. I am a learning advisor here at the Western Institute of Technology. I cover study skills, academic writing, referencing, and usually deal with the international ākonga as well as the business school ākonga. As well as being a learning advisor, I'm also a chef and have been for 25 plus years. And almost 10 years of that was spent as a kaiako within the hospitality department here. I have two daughters, one's 15 and the other is 10. And I have a really patient family that deals with my interesting behaviors. As part of my kaupapa here at WIT, I've studied the whole time I've been teaching, and that led to me graduating from a Bachelor of Culinary Arts in 2022, which led to me, other than facilitating the Diploma in Advanced Cookery program, I looked after the Graduate Diploma in Hospitality Management, and most recently, before I started my job as a learning advisor, I was running the plant-based cookery course here at the Western Institute of Technology. So, kombucha. Kombucha is a fermented tea drink thought to have originated in Manchuria, and it's full of probiotic good bacteria. We'll get back to what probiotic is in a minute. But it has a sharp vinegary taste and can be used as a refreshing drink on its own or mixed with fruits, spices, almost anything really. And it also makes a great base for cocktails if you enjoy sitting in the sun having a cocktail. So a probiotic. Probiotics are live cultures and yeasts frequently described as being good or healthy for gut bacteria. It's basically a gut-friendly bacteria that gets things all going in the right direction. The belief is that probiotics boost the number and variety of beneficial or good bacteria in your colon. That aids in digestion and potentially general health. Fermented vegetables such as kimchi or sauerkraut, miso, and kefir are ingredients that are also rich in probiotics and have become, go-to gut health foods. Numerous yogurts and things on the supermarket shelves always advertise probiotics. Because we've talked about probiotics, we have to talk about prebiotics. Prebiotics are the non-digestible foods that stimulate the growth and activity of the beneficial bacteria within your intestines. They essentially provide the food that the probiotics need to get going, to thrive in that environment. Examples of things like asparagus, leeks, lentils, honey. You can find them in some supplements, but it's always, just like most chefs, fresh is best. So it's always good to have a whole food element to it. So the first thing you need to do to make your own kombucha is you need to grow a SCOBY. A SCOBY's really similar to what you would call a mother in vinegars or fermented products that you use in foods. It's pronounced SCOBY. It's at the heart of kombucha. And it leads to flavoring and bacterial growth and capturing yeast and all those sorts of things. Standing for symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. They typically grow from natural yeast and bacteria in your kitchen at home. At first, your SCOBY looks a bit wispy, almost like smoke through the liquid. And as you refine your process, it gets bigger and bigger, eventually resembling sort of a pancake. And you can see there on the right hand side where it says day 30. That's what you get after a couple of weeks. Keeping your developing SCOBY alive can be hard at first, but it follows a really similar life cycle to bacteria and yeasts. So if you keep it, in a warm, dark place, dry, warm, dark place, you should be pretty good with it. Some equipment that you'll need to get started, you'll need a big glass jar. Plastic is okay, but glass is much better. You can sterilize it more easier, and it's much better for producing clean natural foods. You'll need some cloth, heavy linen or muslin, and it should be sterile when you use it for the first time. You'd also need, something to affix the muslin or cloth to the jar. A big rubber band or some string is appropriate. You'll need a fine mesh strainer or a sieve and a couple of pots, depending on the size of water capacity you need to boil your water. Some standard ingredients that you'll need to get started with. You'll need 250 mils of a raw unfiltered kombucha. 7 cups of water. We need potable water, but that's typically in New Zealand, that's just out of the tap and then boiled. A couple of black tea bags. Start off with some black tea to begin with, and then you'll get the process much easier. It's easier to start with the standard sort of variations rather than going into fruit teas or anything like that to start with. You'll need a half cup of sugar. Raw or organic is appropriate. Avoid brown or like those whiter candy making sugars for like castor and stuff like that, because they'll change flavors, and often they can have a different profile. They can make things discolor and stuff like that. One note that I wanted to point out here, and you'll see in the videos a little bit further on, is I use the Remedy brand kombucha for my kombucha starters, for my SCOBY starters. And I look for the 1.25 plastic bottles that they have. They tend to have a bit more, because they're unfiltered, they have more bits in it. Even though you might look at it and think, oh, that doesn't look so good. You're really looking for sort of like wispy sort of blobs rolling through it when you give it a shake. If you can find that, that's great. Just hold it up to the light in the supermarket. You should be able to find something decent. Otherwise, any raw or organic kombucha should be fine. Avoid flavors at this stage because you can add those flavors afterwards. Your first, excuse me, your first step of growing a SCOBY is to boil your water. Make sure you have it boiled for a good couple of minutes. And then once it's boiled, add your sugar to it. Stir until it dissolves, and take it off the heat and leave it to sit. Add your tea bags, leave it to steep, just the same as you do making a cup of tea. Set it aside and leave it to cool. Once at room temperature and you've removed your tea bags, add your mixture to a sterilized jar and add the store-bought kombucha to it. You really only need just the bottom of the kombucha bottle, so make sure you enjoy the rest or save it for later. Place the muslin cloth on the top, secure it, obviously with a rubber band or a string, and then set aside out of the sun or direct sunlight for 2 to 4 weeks. One note I've got there is if you can try to develop your SCOBY in your kitchen. People using the space normally will allow the capture of the natural yeast and bacteria as it flows through. Try to avoid growing everything in a cupboard because there's just not enough movement there. You won't get those natural yeasts flowing through as they need to. So this is the first of our video clips. Hopefully it all runs well. And it just covers some equipment that you'll need to secure in order to get started with everything. You'll hear me say in the video that some of it you might have at home already, otherwise some may have to be purchased. Okay guys, so today we're going to look at making our own kombucha from scratch. Here's all the stuff that you'll need, and we'll just go through everything real quickly just to outline what we're up to and how we're going to do it. So you can use any tea bags you like, anything that's your flavor basically. I like green tea, so that's sort of what I use most of the time. Also a combination of whatever tea you're into, and green tea gives you a nice flavor balance as well. Some of the ingredients you need straight off will be, for a litre, 1/3 of a cup of sugar, just white sugar's fine, and then a pre-made kombucha. I've gone for the Remedy brand, just simply because they're more, they tend to have a bit more bits in the bottom, for a better word, and anything that you look through and you can see a few floaties at the bottom is what we're after. So having a good look around there. You'll need a measuring jug and a sieve. Most people have got that in their house. A nice steel pot, just anything that you've got really, just needs to hold a litre of boiling water. And then a decent sized jug. I have a little temperature gauge on the side of mine, just so I know that everything's not getting too hot. And then when we get to bottling it, you can either use something like a springform springform latch bottle, or you can go for the good old-fashioned quart bottle, brown bottle, easy. If you are going to use the quart bottles, you'll have to get yourself a capper and some caps, which you can buy just at your local supermarket, but the capper you'll probably have to find online. Okay, so that next step is to make sure you get to dissolving your sugar in the water, and I'll just run through that as well. I'll just run through these videos quite quickly. There'll be a point at the end where you can send me some questions if you need to as well. Okay, so as you can see, our water is just about to come to the boil. I'm going to put my sugar in now because it'll dissolve enough anyway. Just give it a quick little stir so everything goes through it, and then we'll just let it come to the boil nicely. Okay, so that's what a rapid boil looks like, everybody. Everything's melted through nicely, nothing going on there that we need to worry about. So once it's come to a nice rapid boil and it's been boiling for a few minutes and everything's melted in nicely, all that sugar's gone and it's become a sugar syrup, just turn it off and put it to the side. So what we're going to do now is we'll throw our tea bags in. If you're using tea bags with the string like this, just knot them together so they don't go all over the place. Trust me, it's annoying when you've got a couple of dozen in there and you're trying to find them. Otherwise, you can use tea leaves, you can use just regular gumboot tea like Bell or Choicer or whatever brand that you enjoy, and just throw them in. They're going to stay in there for the standard amount of time that it would take to make your cup of tea, just sort of those 3 to 5 minutes steeping time. Just follow the directions on the packet and you should be okay. Depending on how strong you want it, depends on how many tea bags you use, but for your first attempt, stick to the 4 because it's going to be enough for what you need to do. Okay, so 5 minutes later, we'll just pull everything out. Notice how I tied it all together so it comes out in one nice go. You don't want to squeeze the tea bags, otherwise you'll risk getting little bits of tea in there if you're using those pre-packaged tea bags. So that's still cooling down nicely, and we'll come back to it in a few minutes. And I'm just double checking the temperature of my my tea mixture. What we have to do is get this down to about 27 degrees, somewhere around there. So it just needs a few minutes in the fridge, and then we'll get going with the next step. With one of our final steps for making our kombucha starter, what we have to do is put our nicely cooled tea mix into the sanitized glass jar, and then we're going to add our kombucha sort of dregs from the bottled kombucha into it. Making sure that this is, like I said in the last little video, was make sure it's at a good temperature. We're looking for somewhere in the sort of the 27 to sort of 30 range, not too hot. Lower than blood temperature is the right temperature. You notice there's a few little dregs of things in the pot. You don't really want those in there, but if they get in there it's not a big deal, but it just means it'll be another thing to filter out at the end. Okay, so the sieve comes out. We've got our little bit at the bottom of our kombucha here. It's only going to be about 200 or 300 mils. I think I measured this out. It was about 250, and that's got all the bits and pieces of the leftover SCOBY from when it was processed, and that literally just goes straight in. Give it a bit of a swizz, mix it up, and just pour that straight in. Finally, the very last thing that you're going to want to do is get yourself a piece of muslin cloth, a nice little rubber band. Everybody should have one of those at home, and then make sure that you put it on the top nice and tight. The reason why I use muslin cloth is because it's got a really good sort of, it's fine enough that you won't get any sand flies or fruit flies or anything in your kombucha, but it's still got enough aeration that all the gases and carbon dioxide coming off the kombucha will come out by itself, and that will just sit happily like that in a nice dark place in your kitchen for a good couple of weeks. I would leave it for 2 to 4 weeks just to make sure that you get what you want out of it. And we're back. So some time has passed. This is actually one I prepared earlier, just like all chefs. I bought this one in from home, so you can see that the SCOBY is actually sunken right down from the top to the bottom. A good example of that is this one where the SCOBY is still floating on the top. This is just the standard thing. I've done the exact same thing as what you've just seen. You can tell that all of that color has sunken down to the bottom, loads of tannins and all that color going down. So it becomes a little bit lighter depending on what you use though. This for example though, we're going to pour it out, and this is actually a green tea kombucha. But you'll see all the little bits and pieces are just at the bottom there. Now you're going to want to leave about 200, 250 mils in the bottom just to start your next batch. And the SCOBY will be down there, and I'll show you that in a second. So I'm just going to get the SCOBY out now. Very gentle. I'm just going to use a wooden spoon so we can get it out and have a good look at it. They're very delicate when they're quite young. So that's just in there. And you see that the SCOBY sort of forms the shape of whatever it goes into. So whether it's in a square container or whether it's in a round jar, you get what you need. Now these young ones are going to be very, very thin, very, very delicate. You can rip them in half to make 2 batches. You can do whatever you like with it. They are really resilient, and they will, just as they regrow, they'll form into the shape that you've got them in. I'll put that one back in there so it has its home. Always sort of try to keep them in the jar. Let's have a look at this one, just to show you what we're talking about. So this one is slightly older. It's been going for a little while. You'll notice it's very thick. It's quite firm, and it has almost like a hockey puck sort of texture to it. It's quite, not really slimy as such, but it has this nice sort of smooth texture going on. And you can tell just by looking at it, it's a healthy SCOBY. This is just all tannins and bits and pieces that have got stuck. You can wash it off if you like, but I find it's a bit like if you wash them, they lose all of their bacteria and everything good that you want them to keep going. And that is how you make your own SCOBY from scratch. So this one is like, okay, so that's all pretty straightforward. Like I said, there'll be time at the very end for you to grab my details to ask questions if you like. It is literally that easy. The one thing I do need to tell you at the moment, though, is this is going to be an older SCOBY that I've been working with for a while, and there's a bit of a trigger warning here. So if you don't enjoy things that don't look natural, even though it is, you may want to end our little video here. Okay, just to show everybody something quite interesting towards the end. This is actually my first ever SCOBY that I've made. I used to make this in my beer making kit. So it's been in a large sort of 25-litre barrel. And this guy is huge. So it fills up the whole jar, and this is a really, really big guy. Don't worry about tearing them. They will tear and reform and birth new SCOBYs all the time. But this is what, this is a good couple of years old now. I would say maybe 3-4 years old. And this will live quite happily for months and months at a time in the back of the fridge if you're not using it. They go quite dormant, so don't be afraid to keep them if you make big batches like I do. And this is just one that I've kept for a while. It is absolutely massive. They don't need much liquid in there. They just need enough liquid to keep everything going nicely. And if you're going to keep them in the fridge and then use them again later, just be sure to reactivate them with a teaspoon of sugar or something a day or two before, just to get all the bacteria active again and working. Otherwise they'll sit there quite happy. Okay, so just making sure I haven't missed anything. If you're wanting to make your first full batch, I would recommend using 4 litres of water, boil it, obviously. Then you're going to want 16 black, green, or mixed tea bags for your first 4 litre batch. That'll fill one of those big jars. I'm thinking the jars I use are ex-pickle jars, so they've just been sanitized and cleaned and washed and everything. There's no flavor left in them because glass is pretty good for that. You'll need a cup and a third of sugar. Again, try to stick to the organic or the raw sugar, just because it has a better flavor profile and it's a bit more natural. Use the tea you enjoy and mix and match with green teas if you want to balance things out. If you're not enjoying the first batch that you made when you started your SCOBY as well, it's a good idea to play around. Using flavored tea bags will work, but it'll change the flavor profile quite markedly. If you want a standard batch to get an idea of strength and flavor, try 2 black tea and 2 green tea bags per litre of water. Like I said, avoid the white, brown, and caster sugar. They affect the flavor quite a lot. When you're making your first batch, you're going to want to boil the water. Again, just always start with boiled water. Once boiled, add your sugar, dissolve it, add your tea bags, allow them to steep. So we're following the same process as making your SCOBY, just in bigger amounts. Once at room temperature, add it to a sterilized jar, add your kombucha starter, which is your SCOBY, and that small amount of liquid that you've retained from that making the first SCOBY process. And you made that in step 1. And securely place your muslin cloth on top, set aside out of the sun or direct light for 2 to 4 weeks. Within this, you follow the same rules as growing the SCOBY. For sunlight and ventilation, you need those. You still need yeasts and bacteria from the air, so keep it in a cool, dark, dry place out of the way in your kitchen is best to capture natural yeasts and bacteria. Any troubleshooting along that lines, your SCOBY is forming normally and is healthy if you see bubbles, there's a clear jelly-like mass, there's opaque sort of jelly-like masses, something stringy or gritty brown bits within your liquid. Also, if the tea smells fresh, a little bit tart and slightly vinegary, the aroma will become more pronounced the further along you get. Your finished SCOBY is normal and healthy if it's about 1/4 of an inch thick. So that's in the new metrics, you're talking about like 1/2 centimeter or so. It's fine if the SCOBY is bubbly or knobbly or has a rough edge. It's okay if it's thinner in some parts than others, or if there's a hole. It doesn't really matter. Your SCOBY will become smoother and more uniform as you brew more batches of kombucha. You saw the difference between the fresh one and the one that I'd had for a while, and then the beast, obviously. If there's a problem, you'll see a fuzzy black or green mold growing on top of your SCOBY. Throw it away. There's no point trying to salvage it. You can't clean it. You can't wash it. It's already in there. If your tea starts to smell a little bit cheesy or rancid or otherwise unpleasant in any way, it's not normal and the batch is ruined. In any of those cases, bad bacteria has taken hold. Discard it and start again with a fresh batch. You know how to start it from a store-bought kombucha now, so you should be okay. If you can't tell if there's a problem, just leave the tea to ferment and the SCOBY to form, and then you be able to see after that. If it's a problem, it'll get worse. If it's normal and part of the process, it should normalize and at least not get any worse. But really, I've put a picture up there on the right-hand side of what you need to avoid. Those are the sorts of problems you'll have with direct sunlight and not enough ventilation and not enough capture of the good bacteria. Once your kombucha is made, drain the jar and filter it through the sieve lined with the muslin cloth that you've used. Sterilized bottles and jars should be used to filter off your kombucha, and then just refrigerate it and enjoy. Keep the SCOBY in approximately a cup of the kombucha liquid for your next starter. This can live happily in your fridge for several months. Remove it from the fridge a day or so before a day or so before you use it, and just reactivate it with a teaspoon of sugar or honey or a sweetener of some description. It'll wake up ready to use in a few hours. Once you move your kombucha to the chiller, it's time to start thinking about additives. A few fresh or frozen berries, some fruits or spices, or even fresh herbs can make a big impact on the flavor. Adding sparkling water or soda water to the base or flavored kombucha before drinking can make it fizzy. And it's a nice drink to enjoy in the sun, and it's brilliant for tricking the kids into thinking they're having something fizzy when it's actually healthy for them. Try using a cold infused tea bag. They're reasonably cheap and easy to find at the supermarket. I use the Red Seal brand. It's a really good product and they make a good selection, but otherwise there's other brands available. like I said, my kids love kombucha when fruits and veg are out of season, and it keeps them healthy, especially in winter. So other than that, enjoy. And just if you have any questions or anything that you'd like to connect with me about making kombucha or being a learning advisor in general, I've left my details on the screen. So any patai, flick me a message and we'll have a kōrero. And just because I've been talking to a bunch of learning advisors, I've included my referencing at the end. I hope you all enjoyed my presentation, and thank you for your time.